Okay. Now it's official,
We're
right?
still on Zoom. I don't understand. It's not my
The same people who want YouTube, go YouTube Live, would go on Zoom even more, right? The YouTube Live, they can't reply. I don't know if you'd want them to.
You could.
And you want to give Reb Mendel big shkrecht for coming all the way from Thornhill, although Thornhill is not as far as it used to be. It seems that it's a lot closer already.
It's gotten further.
It's gotten further?
Yeah,
Depends
traffic
on
is
traffic.
crazy.
It's crazy, but...
I can go quicker to Hamilton than to Thornhill.
It's a quarter after. In Thornhill, it's 10 o'clock. It's 15 times a different standard time. It's today's Tzeh Ulamd, the Kugel and the Cholent is sponsored Lilu Nishmas by my wife and I. Lilu Nishmas, my shver Reb Avraham Tuvia, Reb Yosef, and he would have certainly enjoyed Tzeh Ulamd. He certainly would have enjoyed listening to Rabbi Kaplan. Certainly challenging Rabbi Kaplan. Since he's not here, I feel I have to be his malamakum. And challenge instead. But whenever, amen. Thank you, and thank you all for joining.
L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. This works for me.
Want something else? Want me to get you a concise?
Truth is that the Sheilta says that the haftarah is always me'inyan hayom. That's the nekuda. It's like Shabbos Chanukah. It's the Shiltas and Chanukah. The Shilta says that the haftarah on Shabbos Chanukah is not on the parsha. It's dafka about Chanukah because the dominant theme becomes it overrides the parsha. But afal pikein, I thought that we should talk about sefira omer because not only it's parsha Shavua, but it's also the mitzvah that unites all the days of this month. There's no other month that has a unique mitzvah in every single day of it, like sefira omer. The entirety of Iyar is united by sefira omer. So, Sfartim lachem in bachas Shabbos. That lachem, Chazal say, means that there should be an inyan of sefira l'kol echad v'echad. Chazal juxtapose it with the inyan of counting 7 years. Over there, it doesn't say lachem, it says lacha, singular. The Tosfos says over there that mistama, the reish av bezdin would make a bracha. The reish is hashana. That's what Tosfos says. The Rosh says for sure. The Rosh says mistama avada. It says a mitzvah daf machan a bracha. So it says lacha. It says melo. It has to be the in of lach is a single counting. Later on in Parshas Re'eh, it also says that Shiva is Tisperlach. It's also single. How do we work that out? So the Sefri says this is Sefri, Medrash HaGadol, Medrash HaLocha, that this is the Inyan that has to be Al Pi Bezdin. It's Al Pi Bezdin. That's a reference to Bezdin that instead of like the Tzedukim and the Baisusim said, it's Machzah Shabbos. And the Eibishter makes that. They had a problem with the whole inyan of the calendar, the whole inyan of Chazal, of the Chacham being manufacturing Kedusha. So therefore, that's why the Torah in Chumash Devarim uses Lashon Yachid, but really the mitzvah is V'sfartem Lachem, and Shtei Sefira L'Kol Echad V'Yachad. And there's a machlekes in Poskim, how far does the Hei Sefira L'Kol Echad V'Yachad go? If Shemea Ka'ena, that's good enough. If you hear somebody, or really it has to be mamash sefira. The be'etzem has to be mamash the sefira. Everybody has to be safer by themselves. So the Rambam says, the Rambam says that it's a mitzvah. Amzloshen is mitzvahs. It's a mitzvah asay. It doesn't say the words menater. It's a mitzvah asay. Al kol ish mi Yisrael. A mitzvah asay al kol ish mi Yisrael. There should be safer. And then the Rambam says that Nosham v'avadim apturim. Nosham v'avadim apturim. The Rambam doesn't give a reason. It doesn't say why. He says Nosham v'avadim apturim. So the Beis Yosef says, the Kesef Mishnah says right away, Mishum dahava mitzvah seish azman groma. That's what the Kesef Mishnah says. It's not so pashut, because the Ramban in Maseches Megillah says, he goes through a list of mitzvahs which are not zman groma, and one of the mitzvahs is sefira omer. The Ramban is a list of mitzvahs. It says Bikurim is not sefira omer, and he says the sefira omer is also not the mitzvah says Zman Groma. That's what the Ramban says. It is it's Zman Groma. It's right. It's Mochsa Pesach, Mochsa Shabbos. It has a certain day. It begins. It ends. Like I say, it's not. What's the pshat in them? So there's different ways to be miyash of this. Avnei Nezer says. Avnei Nezer wants to say that it's because that it's not the zman that's geirem, it's the korban that's geirem. It's the korban that's geirem. And yes, the korban is geirem, so b'meila, it's not zman grama. It's a minchas omer.
But the mitzvah still count.
Yeah, the mitzvah is to count. But it's not zman grama. The Avnei Nezer says it's mitzvah which is geirem. It's a korban omer which is geirem. Meila bald, it's a korban omer, it's not called zman grama. It's a very unique way. Like even though so the argument then becomes like this, like the Ramban, like the Bala Itur and most of the other Rishonim, like the Ran says that Reiv Rishonim hold that sefira omer today is only midrabanan. Why? Because there's no korban omer. So the Rambam holds it's a mitzvah seishas man grama, the pashtus, because he holds that it's zman grama. It doesn't matter if there is a korban, it's not a korban. The Rambam says today it's minatera. Today it's still minatera. Shengi that Rambam will say it's not minatera. Why? Because there's no korban. It's korban geirem. The korban has to be geirem. Anyway, that's
a mitzvah d'oraisa. You can't say.
What do you mean it's a mitzvah d'oraisa? Today's day and age.
The korban is a machlekes.
It's a machlekes.
No, according to the Ramban, I know it's machlekes. Right.
You can't do it.
You
Yeah,
can't.
but you can still count. If counting, I can do the part that I can do.
Yeah, that's the Shittas Rambam. But the Shittas Ramban and the Shittas Bala Itur and the Shitta of Reiv Rishonim, and that's the Reiv Posken Amachria, that it's there's no korban. So Mela we're counting the Rabbanon. By the way, so that leads into a very interesting shaila, which we'll talk about later maybe. So if Mashiach comes in Eretz Hashem, right? So does the mitzvah does the mitzvah turn into a deraisa even though there was no korban? Does the mitzvah still turn into a deraisa? And if the mitzvah
comes during sefira,
if Mashiach comes tomorrow, Eretz Hashem, so then the question is, can we still make a bracha? The question is mitzvah achshavei. Do we have the mitzvah from now, right? So the minchas kind of declares about a bar mitzvah boy, right? It's a famous shalosh bar mitzvah boy. When he does a bar mitzvah boy counts before. A katan, a gersh in his geir is not a shaila because it's katan shanela. The katan shanela is a new mitzias. But and the evich and a shtacher, if there would be such a thing, is also, it's like as Alter Rebbe said, it's also new mitzias. The evich doesn't have a mitzvah b'chal. Right? That's all. And a isha can't become an ish, even though some people think it could, but that's a can't. So another Nacharaya. If you needed Nacharaya, that Isha can't become Ish. So there's no child to make him. Okay.
I would say it would be a mitzvah deraisa, also the fact that it's the current zman. Meaning that it's the current zman, the way the Mashiach comes, then it would be the way
Yeah, l'chayda. I mean, at least according to some shittas, it would become a deraisa, even though it didn't start with a korban. It would still afal pikin become a deraisa. Maybe, whatever. So there's a I know. So that itself is a whole discussion. If it becomes a deraisa anyway, right? That's the question. If it's man grama, or it's not dakistik and chiluk. The Ramban says it's not a mitzvah as man grama. Only the Ramban says. Nobody else says it. It's like the Avnei Nezer says v'hu peli. You can ask any child, sefira omer is a mitzvah says man grama. Of course it's man grama. Shaila. Right? So the Biruchim Fishel Perlov, he wants to answer in a similar way. He says the Turei Oven asks a different shaila. The Shagasari asks that l'cheira, how could Bikurim not be a mitzvah seishas man grama? The Ramban includes Bikurim also.
Because it's also.
So they say that is that. So the Turei Oven says that really it's not the zman grama, it's ktsira grama. Hayes that it's zman kotzer. So Mela, when you start the ktsira, and then it comes to zman osif. That's why you can't do kriya anymore. So the kriya is only till after sukkah. Once it's osif, so it's nigram by the maisa ktsira and the maisa asifa. So maisa ktsira, maisa asifa. It's not a zman. It's more of that. That's what the Turei Oven says in the on the Zohar on the Rasag.
You could do today.
Tzida and Asifa you could do today. That's not so pasha. It's not so pasha that Bechlal you have to call Yeshvel. That's not so pasha. The whole Matanas Eretz Yisrael is not so pasha. The Rambam holds that it's not minatayr. It's only the Rabbanan today. Even if you have Reiv Yidden living in Eretz Yisrael, It's not kol yesh, even the second Beis Hamikdash wasn't kol yesh ve'alah, and it wasn't in the formation of Shvatim. So it's not Yevel. It's not so pashut. Okay, whatever. Akoponim. So the Kesef Mishnah says that it's mishum, that it's a zman grama, and mela. So nashim avadim apturim. That's what he says. Nashim avadim apturim. That's what he says. The Magen Avrham in the end of Sivkat and Aleph. The Magen Avrham says like this. The Magen Avrham says that nashim va'avadim pturim. He says why? Because the havale. That's what he says. The havale mitzvahs haseish as man grama. Havale mitzvahs haseish as man grama. So nashim pturim. But then he says, hayes miu shavya olayu chayva. So b'meila, since there's shavya olayu chayva, hayem ha'idna shavna olayu chayva. That woman took upon himself as a chiyuv. Magen Avrham doesn't say, we don't make a bracha, we don't make a bracha. It doesn't talk about it. But it says that shavi olay chiyuv. Shavi olay, it's a good. So then it's like a question: do they make a bracha? Don't they make a bracha? I mean, in today's day and age, I'm assuming that your wives count for you to say, "Amen." They make a bracha. I don't know. That's it. The Mishnah Bruder, he kvenkels ach. He doesn't. He says, it's not really a chiyuv. Don't make a bracha. And it's not so clear why you don't make a bracha. He says you don't make a bracha maybe because most nashim they're gonna. I mean, don't tell the lady who said this.
The woman needs to count at all.
Not a shaila. It's not a shaila. The Rambam says clear. By the way, we don't have an earlier source than the Rambam. We don't have. The Gemara never talks about it. Oh. The Rambam was the first one who talks about it. The Rambam says in Echstid Musafim nashim avadim pturim from this mitzvah. That's the Rambam. Before the Rambam, there's no documentation for the Rambam. The Rambam doesn't talk about it. The Rosh doesn't talk about it. The Rif doesn't talk about it. The Rambam is the first one to talk about it. And by the way, I didn't find from the Rambam to the Magen Avrham, I didn't find anybody else talks about it. From the Mamash, till the Magen Avrham, right? The Mishnah Berurah talks about this, and he brings down from a sefer Shulchan Shleima, not from Shleima's own Rebbe, obviously. There's some kind of Shulchan Shleima. He says he brings down that Mistama, they're not going to finish counting anyway. Don't tell your wives. He says this. Mistama, they're not going to finish anyway. He brings out a svara. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand. It's very strange svaras. Like it's hard to understand. In Kabbalah svaras, like that. This is a big shiloh. So this is a big shiloh. Why does the Magen Avrham? First of all, they do make a bracha. Right? And in Simyud Zayin, it says clear. It's a clear psak in Shulchan Aruch that an isha can make a bracha on tzitzis. Don't tell them. It says clear. State clear. You got bracha on tzitzis. They want to do a mitzvah, and the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch says even though asher kedishanu, the mitzvahs of vitzivanu, and lechayit there's no in vitzivanu. So as afal pikin vitzivanu goes, they could elect to do a mitzvah. And agamas gadol mitzvah v'eisa. The Alter Rebbe says clear in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Yud Zayin. He says clear that afal is gadol mitzvah v'eisa. Miktzah is schar yeshlam, and he can say make a bracha. And minig Yisrael is at least I think it's minig Yisrael. Most communities that isha makes a bracha on lulav and esrog, and then there's a shaila later on minigay to Havdalah.
Big difference. Don't worry, you're not worried about
They don't make. They make a later.
Huh? One second. Let's talk about it. Huh? The Shiloh with Avdollah. So there's two shittas in halacha.
I know what they do by lechbench, right?
Yeah, she's supposed
Yes, what is a woman supposed to do?
One second. I'll talk about it in a second.
Because then you say to them.
Kiva, that's a good point. Isha makes Avdallah, but she's not allowed to make drink.
Lass durchs reden. Rabbeinu Shalom, okay.
Look where you start.
So l'chayda, when it comes to Havdalah,
And everybody got excited.
oh, they stopped listening.
Chas v'sholom, we don't even joke like that.
Okay, good. Baruch Hashem. When you get to Havdalah, there's two shittas in Havdalah. For Isha's chayiv and chayiv and Havdalah b'chal. And by the way, this is a lot of people don't know this. If a man is Yetz Havdalah, it's not so pashut that they can make Havdalah again for his wife. It's not so pashut. You can't make Havdalah, but it's not so pashut. It's not pashut that you can make again for your wife. And that's why usually in shul they have a bacher make Havdalah. If you make Havdalah in shul, you have a bacher, somebody that doesn't have an almond. It's not so pashut to make Havdalah. In fact, now it's not so pashut. The pashut you can't make Havdalah a second time. The pashut you can't make it a second time.
Saying it was bracha levatala.
Yeah, Rav he says no chiyuv. So, but what about an isha for herself? Could she make Havdalah for herself? 100% she can make a bracha. No, but then she can't be mitzvah gever. She can't be mitzvah ish. But she herself can make a bracha. How can she make a bracha? What do you mean it's a mitzvah? It's a mitzvah. The Chum were metaken, so say that it could be they weren't metaken the Avdallah ala case for Isha, but Afal Piken, you can make a bracha.
So why can't you give the?
So I'm asking a simple question. Why did Magen Avrham say Shav yu alayu chayva? What's the nafka? My nafka mina Shav yu alayu chayva? Yes, Shav yu alayu chayva. Not Shav yu alayu chayva. Understand? It's a mitzvah. Isha could do a mitzvah. She wants to do a mitzvah. She make a bracha. Kind of mud the lashon Shav yu alayu chayva. My nafka mina Shav yu alayu chayva. My nafka mina. It's interesting. The Alter Rebbe Shulchan, he changes the lashon of the Magen Avrham. He doesn't say Shav yu alayu chayva. He says b'miktzas medines. He says nashim were makabel b'miktzas medines. The Magen Avrham says Shav yu alayu chayva. Azamat pashtos. Right? I spoke to a big Talmud Chacham, a former Rashiva of mine. I said, what's the pshat of it? Says, why does he change? Why does the Alter Rebbe change the lashon of Magen Avrham? So he said to me, Mistama was a different mitzias. Magen Avrham was in Poland, the Alter Rebbe was in Lita, so a different mitzias.
Women were more liberated.
I'm like, are you serious? You want me to buy that? Like serious? Like that's not an answer. That's from Poland to Lita. The Magen Avrham didn't know that mixes Medinas. It's not a diuk. It's not a diuk. I said okay. So I did. I looked, and I found there is a diuk. How do we know it's a diuk? Because there's a sikha that the Rebbe spoke to a group of Bachrim going back to Eretz Yisrael after Pesach in Tov Shlamad Aleph, and the Rebbe happened to be Magia that sikha, and the Rebbe not only edited the sikha, the Rebbe added a whole bunch of footnotes, and in one of the footnotes, the Rebbe says that Ula Yesh Leimar, that the diuk of the Alter Rebbe that he wrote Miktzas Medines, he didn't write Shav yu alayu chayva, is because of what says in the Zohar. So what does it say in the Zohar? So Taka, the Magen Avrham is assigned to the Zohar. The Magen Avrham is assigned to the Rambam, and Magen Avrham is assigned to the Zohar. The Zohar is in two places. The Zohar is in Parshas Tetzaveh, in Chelik Beis in Parshas Tetzaveh, and the Daf Kuf Pe Gimel, and the Zohar is also in Chelik Gimel in Parshas Emer. A Meridik Zohar. The Zohar says that the inyan of counting is mitzad pnimiyus ha'inyanim, it's shaykh dafka to a gever. It's shaykh the inyan of hamshachas hamoichen into midis, and this inyan is shaykh dafka to a gever. It's not shaykh to noshim. It's not shaykh to noshim.
What that means, I'm sure a little bit. You otherwise went over everybody's heads. 2 minutes. Everyone understand what hamshachas hamoichen into the midis means?
It's not okay. So what? I'm going to lose everybody. It's not the. In Kabbalah, there's an inyan of Zoh. It's called Tzeh Ulamd. The Arach Ampin is Moichin. Chacham bin Das. Tzeh Ulamd is Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, Chayid, and Yesod. That's called Tzeh Ulamd. Arach Ampin means a big face, a lot of pnimius. Tzeh Ulamd means a little face. In Moichin, there's a lot of pnimius. In Midas, there's a much lower level. Malchus, the seventh Midah, is feminine. Shechina is Lashon Nekeva. Shabbos is Shabbos HaMalka, even though the Rambam says Shabbos HaMelech, but everybody else says Shabbos HaMalka, and the Puk Chazi that we say L'Chadeidi, it's a Shabbos Malkasa. The inyan of Shabbos is B'chlal Pnimis and Yonim is Dafke the inyan of Nekeva.
Rambam calls Shabbos Melech.
Shabbos HaMelech. Yeah. The Rambam is the only one who says Shabbos HaMelech.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. So a lot. It's a fascinating thing. A lot to talk about. The Rambam describes in the end of Hilchos Shabbos, I think in Perek Tes, he describes Hefti Mekabel, Hayu Yeshim Chacham, Hayu Misatfim, VeYeshvin Umamtinim Lekras HaMelech Shabbos. Huh? He doesn't talk about Malav Malka. The Rambam does not say the word Malav Malka. Malav Malka does not say. So the Lashon does not say. Does not say in Mishnah Torah. Doesn't say that lashon. There's no such lashon.
In all of Mishnah Torah.
Mlava Malka is not found in Mishnah Torah. There's no such lashon in Mishnah Torah. Okay, you say it could be Eisen Suuda, be Yitziyase. It doesn't say Willa Mlava Malka. Akopanim. Everybody says Malka. It's Mlava Malka, Shabbos Malka. It's a kala. It's Shabbos is a kala. Why? Because Shabbos is a makabel. Haterich be'erev Shabbos. Mishatarich be'erev Shabbos. Yechel b'Shabbos. So the inyan of tircha, of aveda, to be mashpia, to give, this is the inyan of the sheishes imam ma'isa. That's the inyan of Zoh. And Malchus takes what you give it and develops it. So when a yid has a proper Shabbos, it elevates the whole week. The whole week is so busy doing it, it's not a Hatshkin cup. Come Shabbos, it gives meaning to life. It gives a person that elevates the whole week. And Shabbos, like the Zohar says, My name is Barchen Kula Yemen. Shabbos brings bracha to the whole week, and Shabbos also is Mila the whole week. It elevates the whole week. So Shabbos is in of Makabel. If you don't do Erev Shabbos, you don't prepare for Shabbos, then you have to do Makabel Shabbos. By the way, that's what this is. Mizitz learned. Leil Shishi is that we come into Shabbos, not only Gashmistik and Yom, Sishla Kugel. That's the main thing is the Iker should be Achon Ruchnis. Like the Sefer Chinuch says in Mrs. Shimvav. The Iker HaGadol by us is Torah. That's our defining thing. That's what the whole sefira. That's what it's about, Mechedus. Free people. Iker is Torah. That's the whole Indian. That's the whole sefira. So B'meila, the week, this is the Inyan of Zohar, and Shabbos is the Inyan of Malchus. Okay, and this is clear? So Noshim, Anoshim, and Noshim have different kind of neshamas. There's a neshama de ma and neshama de ban. The neshama de ma, the sheidish, is from Zohar. The neshama de ban, the sheidish, is from Malchus. So sefira omer is to be mamshech chochma into Zohar, not into Malchus. So being mamshech chochma into Zohar is a masculine thing. It's not a feminine thing. It's not a feminine thing. That's what the Zohar says in Parshas Tzava. Then in Parshas Emer, the Zohar says even more pronounced. The Zohar says that the Yidden, when they were Mitzrayim, they were trapped in the Tumah. They were sucked into the Tumah. In the Mela, the Zohar says the mashal is that like a Isha, when she has Ein of Nida, so there has to be, you have to make a hefsek tara, has to be a hefsek, and then there has to be counting Shiva Nikiyim. So the Zohar says that al derech zeh, the Yidden had to first cut off the tumah. That's the Ein of Bris Milah. And after they cut off the tumah, but it's fascinating. The mashal is from an Isha Hayesheves, so it's counting the.
It has no order.
But it's a mashal. It's only a mashal. The nimshal is that there's Ein of Gzira, and that ends, and then there has to be al derech, the Ein of Shivas Yom of counting, is al derech zeh. Is the Inyan of the Sheva Shavuos, that's the Alter, and then you come to the Inyan of Tara, the Inyan of the Yichud with the Baal, which is the Eibush that's Matan Torah. So the Zohar and Parshas Emer is mamish very clear that it's a masculine thing. But the Zohar says a very interesting lashon over there. The Zohar says that everybody serves the Eibush in their way, which means there's a Inyan of Zacharim and Inyan of Nekevis. There's different ways of serving the Eibush, and everybody has the Zohar's lashon, some interesting lashon of Shleimasa. There's a Shleimasa in each way. The shleimus of a gever, the shleimus of a noshim. Each one has their way of serving the Eibishter. There's different ways. So from the Zohar, so the Rebbe says in the footnote, this is Ksaviyat Kodesh. It wasn't what he said. In those sichos in the back of Lukat Sichos, it's what he said. They wrote down, and he was magia. But the footnotes over there were that he Ksaviyat Kodesh. The Rebbe says Ula Yesh Leimar, that the Alter Rebbe didn't want to say Shavi Olayu when it goes against the Zohar. So he says b'miktzas medines. He makes like a pshara. Hey, the Zohar says, he doesn't want to go against, you don't want to say the Zohar. But later the Magen Avrham says, Shavi Alayu. So the Rebbe says, Ula Yesh Leimar, that's the diak in Alter Rebbe. The diak is, mixes medinas. Okay, so that's maybe, that's like a diak, fine. But l'cha'eda, side the Magen Avrham, it's maybe a little bit less of a kasha with Alter Rebbe, but still a kasha. Like why did I have to say that, so the Shavi Alayu, the kiblu aleim is a mitzvah, l'may nafkimina. L'mayna if you have to makabel the mitzvah not. Isha does a mitzvah, you can make a bracha. It's that simple. So, what's the pshata?
Part of the bracha is asher kiddushana b'mitzvah v'tzvanu.
All the brachas are like that.
Yeah, but even if a woman was makabel the mitzvah on her own, because it's only mitzvahs bedinois, then maybe the nusach of the bracha would not apply.
So you look in the Alter Rebbe says ayin sim is samazai yud zayin and sim yud zayin. He says clearly that even though Isha could put on a talis and she could wear tzitzis and she can make a bracha. And he speaks about v'tzivanu. He speaks about v'tzivanu and he speaks about schar. He speaks about these things. Yes. And it's a davar nafutz. There's no mitzvah like this where you have to shavi olay chayva male to make a bracha. What do you mean shavi olay chayva? Like who needs a shavi olay chayva? Yishuv will turn on mitzvahs. Yiddish frei will turn on mitzvah. Like what is the issue?
Shavi Alainu, she's taking it upon herself.
They took it upon. She put it upon herself.
She put it upon herself.
Shavi is a genumen of zich hachayv. Genumen of zich. What's a pshat genumen of zich hachayv? L'chayv is a mamash. This is a thing mamash. It's a davar muksha. I didn't see anybody should tell zich on this. It's mamash ashvera. It's ashvera inyan. Like, well, what is going on over here? And by the way, the whole nashim avoda thing is fascinating. You have the Rambam. Nobody speaks about till the Magen Avrham. At least I didn't find any in the Magen Avrham. Rambam, the Kesef Mishnah explains Mishum. You have the Magen Avrham and you have the Alter Rebbe Shulchan. I didn't till like. And again, he changes the lashon. So Ula Yesh Leimar. This is the way I understand it. This is why I came to understand it. there's many chidushim from the Rebbe on sefira omer. Many chidushim. One of the early chidushim from the Rebbe on sefira omer, this was Tafshin Yud Gimel. The Rebbe spoke about this. The Rebbe asked, "Mamasha like a klotz kasha, pashtasika kasha." L'cheira, when everybody knows the din, so this is the din.
1953 was before he became a Rebbe.
3 years after.
3 years after.
One of the earliest sikhs. So this is the first volume. Look at the sikhs. 40 volumes. The first volume. Look at the sikhs. Huh? Tafshin Yud. Never again. Never Tafshin Yud. 53. So everybody knows the din is that if you forget Chas v'Shalom one day to make a bracha, that you keep counting, but you can't make a bracha. I believe there's 3 shittas, but usually we take an halacha. The 2 main shittas are the shaila is if it's a mitzvah that every day is a unique mitzvah. What's the difference, right? It's unique. Each day is a new mitzvah. So you count every day. It doesn't matter what I did yesterday. Or that the whole thing is mahava one mitzvah. So I have a one mitzvah. So if you miss one day, so that's it, finished. There's no. So that's why you keep counting. To be chayish to the shita that says that every day is a mitzvah. But a bracha you can't make to be chayish to the shita that says that. So the Rebbe asked the Pashtik Shaila. So I mean, this is so Ebazei, you should either make a bracha in the beginning, or make a bracha in the end. It's one mitzvah. What do you make 49 brachas for? 49 brachas are one mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, mach ein bracha.
I'm sorry, what was the kasha again?
The kasha is that l'cheira, if it's one mitzvah, make one bracha. Oy betchila, oy beseif. Then the Rebbe said nachmer. The reason that we're making a bracha
This is a klotz kasha? This you said was a klotz.
It's not a kasha that anybody asks. It's not the midat shving them.
So you mean a klotz kasha? A kasha was gay dying.
Klutz just means it's very simple.
It's like so simple. Nobody asks it.
Simple can
everybody asks everybody the thing. They'll say, "What do you mean? It's of course. It's 2 shittas." It's my lashon klotz kasha. You don't have to like it.
Right, enjoy the kasha.
Then the Rebbe said nachmer. Yeah.
Start in the middle, we get a new baltakeh, and they make a new bracha. So each day is like a hefsek.
Each day is a hefsek. So, but how many mitzvahs are you doing? With Kiyah Shefer, you're doing 1 mitzvah.
So you don't make a bracha again with Kiyah Shefer.
Get another one, you make
that. If you started already making a few koilos,
first of all, if you make a hefsek, make a new bracha. No, I'm not so sure. That's make. I'm not so sure. If Meir Kelis, for sure you don't have to make a new bracha. That's for Zichanish. Maybe Lamed Kelis. I'm not so sure. Okay. The Nachdem is Azay. If you're gonna say the reason that you can't make a bracha, because it's 49, it's one mitzvah, right? It's 1 mitzvah. So why do we say it's only an issue if you miss counting day 29? Now you can't count for the other days because it's one mitzvah, right? L'cha'ira, it's not only a chesaron in the days that come, it's also going to be a chesaron in the days that passed. So really, you shouldn't make a bracha until day 49, because you don't know.
To take care of that problem.
If you have a problem that you didn't do the mitzvah, so make a bracha when it's all finished. Which this talk is what the Mishnah Berurah brings over there. That's what the Shulchan Shleimah says, that if each is going to make a bracha, he's not going to finish it.
So, and if you miss a night, can you still make the bracha at the end, or then you can't?
Which?
If you're going to say you can make only a bracha at the end, I missed day 30.
No, I can't. You can't. That's it. It's finished. You didn't do the mitzvah. Huh?
A mice would be the same.
There's a maisa. A maisa could be a small maisa. L'mashal we do by nitil shadayim. We leave a little bit of water and we make a bracha before the shifshuf. Or Isha covers over, so it shouldn't be nana. We do. There is such a thing. There's such a thing when there's a halachic problem, you fit it in like that.
So let's take that to day 49 or day 50. When would you make the bracha? Before day 49?
The last counting, when you finish the last sefira, the last night.
One at the beginning, one day?
No, not one at the beginning. One at the beginning, you don't know you can do the mitzvah. Anyway, the Rebbe says,
this is all
similar.
The Rebbe says like this, huh?
Lag ba'omer, when you say tonight is lag ba'omer, you're not allowed to make a bracha either.
The Seder, but you're allowed to keep counting. And if you count during the day, you could make a bracha the next night, as long as you count it. So the Rebbe says, omer dik nekuda. Listen to this, it's omer dik nekuda. It's omer dik chiddush. The Rebbe says like this. The emes is that when you say it's a separate mitzvah each day, it's not the pshat that each day has a mitzvah to count the day. Each day is a unique mitzvah. Yom Aleph is a mitzvah to count Yom Aleph. Yom Bey is a mitzvah to count Shnei Yom Omer. Yom Shlishi is Shlishi Yom Omer. You can't count Shlishi if you didn't count Rishon and Sheni. You're not counting Yom Shlishi. If you miss a day, it doesn't count. You're not counting. And how can it count? You can't count 29 if you didn't count 28. A person starts counting. This is like a Muslim logic. 1, 2, 3, 9. It doesn't go. This doesn't make any sense.
What was that?
No, like it's, 2 plus 2 equals 97. If you don't like it, we'll take your head off. Does it make any sense? Such the count. No, the word is azay. If I count on the first day, I can make a bracha and I count on a yom echad la'emer of bekayim with the mitzvah b'shleimus. That's the mitzvah b'shleimus. But if I didn't count yom echad la'emer, I can't count yom sheni because I didn't have a yom echad. That's why you can make a bracha every single day as long as you did the brachas up till that day. The chesaron is not in backwards. The days that passed you didn't lose. The chesaron is the days ahead.
It is 28.
The chesaron is the days ahead. You understand? It won't be a chesaron in the days behind.
Aaron can't tell me that logic. What's the logic? You can't count 28 just because you didn't count 27?
That's correct.
It's a lie.
You
But it's a lie.
It's lochem. It's your mitzvah. Do daf selin.
But Shlomi counted 27, and I believe him, so now it's 28.
No.
Has to count on his
They Sfartim lochem. Do daf selin. Each day you have to do daf selin them tog.
That's fine, but if I'm counting, but I know that it's 28, even though I forgot 27. So I'm
It
counting.
doesn't matter. First of all, knowing is not the kind of mitzvah. You have to count the peh. You have to count the peh.
No, but I'm counting 28 now, tonight. So why
the
is
shita-
28 if you didn't count 27? Because how do you skip? That's why he said, how'd you go from 26 to 28?
Even the shita that holds that each day is a unique counting, it's still a continuum. Jeder Tag geht zu einem zweiten Tag.
Because you have to have a yedua.
Not yediyah. You have to have counted. It has to be a chefza shel mitzvah.
To count on your fingers. 1, 2.
It has to be a chefza shel mitzvah. There's a chefza. It's not only the gavra that he's counting.
2.
Das Uftan in the chefza shel mitzvah. In the chefza. And the Rebbe says a very big nekudas. And another sikha later on Chelik Tezvav. The Rebbe says like this. The Rebbe speaks about the famous discussion, famous chakira, if a mitzvah derabanan is only a cheves gavra, or it also creates a chefza. It's also a cheves chefza. It's a whole discussion of Yosef Engel and others discuss this whole inyan, because minat teira, the teira yehasen, so the teira is meshana the mitzias. But when a person, when the Chachamim told us, the Chacham told you to do it. The question is, did the Chacham change the mitzias or not? That's the question. And be'emes, many shittas hold that no, the Chachamim make a change. It means that the Chacham could change the reality of Elam Hazeh. And we have like Lekel Gemer Alai and other inyanim where the Chacham make a mitzvah that it is Meshana the Metzias of Welt. Teira is Meshana the Metzias of Welt. Not only when it's a mitzvah same in a Teira, even a mitzvah that is Meshana the Metzias, das heißt es tut auf in dem Chefze, it's Meshana the Chefze. And the Rebbe says that a raya from this is it's not such a hard thing to understand. When a yid makes his makdish something, he changes the chefza. It's not only a gavra; it's mashana the chefza. Or somebody makes a neder for himself. He's mashana the chefza. There's a shini. There's the whole yid of a yid. So mekadosh zayin. A yid is mekadosh to mashana the chefza. So the Rebbe says we can clearin that when somebody's mekayim a mitzvah that abanon, that the question is that it's uvgitan in the chefza. And the Rebbe says. In a footnote, the Rebbe says, "Ulahoyer from Shulchan Aruch," where it says over there, "Benigeh to Nashim." It says, "Lahoyer benigeh to Nashim." So I don't know, but that's what I think. This is what I'm thinking. I think that the problem is like this: if you need to count, you have to have counted the days before. It's not only that you counted. When you count, you're mashana the chefza, the tustufa mitzias, that the day is a counted day. You're mashana the day. A yid zelt a tog, the tog is like a zelte. If noshim have no chiyuv, if they're only doing it without a chiyuv, so then noshim can't count for the omer. All other mitzvahs, they want to do the mitzvah to say there. But here, Isha wants to count sefira omer. She wants to count Yom Esrim. She didn't count the Chasrei. She didn't count the Shmein Esrei. Why? She did count, but didn't mean anything. It was only a cheves gavra. Nicht aufgetan kein shinui. If the counting didn't do a shinui, then you can't count sefira omer. And that's why the Magen Avrham says the shavi olay cheva the pshat that it's not only a gavra was tutazach. It's the counting hayes to chavilay cheva is tuta from mitzias. The isha when the noshim are mekabel on themselves Indian is yamalt is mit mishana dem chefze, nicht nur the gavra. The chefze wird nicht stane. The chefze wird nicht stane. That's how an isha could make a bracha all 49 days. This is l'chayda the pshat in the Magen Avrham. I don't know for sure, but that's the pshat in the Magen Avrham. Next time, you want the hips of little chassidus also. So
you managed to throw some in a little bit. Wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and the chiddush, the Alter Rebbe is saying, you're going to go against the Zohar, even in miktas medinas, as do a kehila, as a medina, wo freuen nehmen an a mitzvah, wert es a mitzvah. It's mishana the mitzias. A medidike is a medidike. In that medina, it's mishana the mitzias.
There's such a story talking with the Shagasari. They say something about a lung.
Yes.
Person, right?
Yes.
And it was only in the lozhen.
And it was only
in the lozhen where they were makabel the psak of the Shagasari.
And because of that, the child had tintum alev.
Yeah.
And there's another story with the Chasam Sefer that the Chasam Sefer asked a certain
gestoppte geese.
He asked the sheichet.
Yeah.
And there was a boy who had a verstopte cup, and they couldn't understand. He ate from the shchita. He was by a bris. He ate from the shchita of that sheichet. It wasn't not kosher min atayra. The Chasam Sefer asked him. But as a God will be Yisrael, aser it's tuta from the mechefze. It's mishana the chefze. Mishana the mitzias.
That makes
So Mele.
Yamin al small show yamin.
Yeah, yeah. So now there's a nekuda benegeta the sfartam lochem. The sfartam lochem is a word from the Magid, which could be it's from the Baal Shem Tov, but we have it from the Magid. The Magid said that it's not only do sfartam that the Magid of Mezich said that the pnimius of usfartam lochem is usfartam is beloshen sefirus ubehirus, but the loshen that's found in the Mishnah even saper. Today we call it a yahalom in Ivrit, but Ivrit is not the loshen hakedesh. The loshen hakedesh is called even saper. A diamond is even saper. It's even saper. So Mela even saper is the pshat that it's a lichtige zach. A zach was leicht. That it has a So the Magid said, "Usfartem lochem" means that you have to off, that your lochem, that you should start to radiate. You should start to shine. You should. This is the ovoda of sefira omer. The ovoda of sefira omer is that the lochem should shine. So there's a famous story. It's born Yom Yom that the Alter Rebbe said over this Torah, and then he said, "Mit was macht man dem lochem lichtig?" What does that mean? Sounds like it's a mumbo jumbo. What does that mean? The Alter Rebbe put his hands on his head, it said, and he was with dveikus, and he sang a deep niggin. And then the Alter Rebbe said that when the inyan of us, that sheva shabbos is tmimais, that when a yid works on his midas, and he makes that his midas should be tmimais, the yemel tutos of the infant Shabbos. Shabbos is what's mavurah already. Shabbos is perfected, lashon shleimus. And mela, that's what's the pshat? Also sounds like holy words. What's the pshat? So the pshat l'cher is like this. Everybody knows in sefira omer, chesed shebechesed, gvura shebechesed, tferes shebechesed, right? You divide all of this, all the midas up into the subcategories. The pshat. What does it mean for a person to fine tune himself? A child is nicht geworden kein Mensch. He didn't fine tune himself. He didn't gearbeitet auf sich. So the child, he has midas, but his midas are wilde midas. And the midas are an uncontrolled way. It's wild. It's like it's not a menschliche midas. Is the pshat that a person has a meziga. Chesed, yes, he knows how to give. But he doesn't give to everybody. This guy, if he gives him, this guy has a hot sugar. He's going to give his diabetes. Give me a cake. It's not good for him. He's going to hurt himself. He knows that he has to hold himself back. He's not going to give it. He has to have gevura. He has to have discipline. He can't don't go along to get along. And Teferes is rachamim. Chesed only sees giving opportunities. All Chesed sees gevura, nothing. You deserve, you get. You don't deserve, you don't get. Gevura is very rigid. It could be draconian. Then it's the habrachmanis. Chesed doesn't need rachmanis. Chesed doesn't know why do we need rachmanis. I like to give. I don't need rachmanis. But Teferes is a matzav with his gevura. You look at the guy, you say, you don't deserve. It's kumdenisht. But he says, yeah, you're right, it's kumdenisht. But have rachmanis anyway. Have rachmanis. The Chavas Alvava says that real rachamim is over the Eibishter. That's what it says, that the Yankiv said, the Kim Yitn Lechem Rachamim. A human being is not even shaykh to rachamim. Rachamim is a very high midah. The real rachamim comes from the Eibishter, but the person tries to emulate the Eibishter to meaning of rachmanis. It's part gevura, it's part chesed. In other words, you create calibration. The calibration of the midas, that means that means that's how a person starts to radiate. In other words, the inyan of how we makabel the Torah, how do we prepare ourselves for Kabbalah Torah, And a mensch darf sich Iber machen. Not only he macht sich Iber in Meise, not only that his actions are a certain way, not only that his dibur is a certain way, not only that his machshav is a certain way, his feelings become different. He calibrates his feelings. A person like that starts to radiate. A person like that becomes a very lichtige mensch. When you mashlim all these inyanim, very lichtige. So here's like a little Shayna Maisa with a Toronto ending for like a mashal. There was in Vitebsk, there was a yid whose name was Gershon Ber, I think. It was a Gershon Ber, something like that. Anyway, he was a yid in Vitebsk. He was a yid on Iyar, and he was a big Baal Tzedakah, but he didn't have any children. He didn't have any children. He was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe. He asked for brachas, whatever. He didn't have children. 25 years they were married. And Alter Rebbe's chassidim were taught to have Mesiras Nefesh with tzedakah. There was a major inyan. Like it says, Yom Shabbos, the shtickle breit is deiner, vis minor. Chassidim used to say when a shliach came to collect money for Eretz Yisrael, they used to call it a Gemilas Chesed for the Meibishn, because the Gemara says that Leiva Alav Any Pereh, it's called Daf Machen Gemilas Chesadim. They didn't call it. They didn't say like that's tzedakah. It's like Gemilas Chesadim. But they used to say the famous story that Chassid made a lot of money. He right away said, "I'm sure that a shliach for the Rebbe is going to be coming soon. That they have to give money. Why do I have money for? That's how I look. That's how Chassidim worked on looking. This is how Chassidim work. So this Gershon something wasn't Gershon, but I've tried to remember the name. This is Gershon, I guess. Anyway, he was Nebuch. He had a guy in the business. When his master was malshan on him, made a alila, and the government came in. The czars came in, not they smitten, and they shut his business down, and he was in a very bad shape. Okay, the shliach came. The Rebbe is collecting money for Eretz Yisrael, and he doesn't know what to do. He's mamash to brachen, faint. He doesn't have. He had to give him shliach. He had a wife, her name was Chana Rivka. Chana Rivka went and saw her husband so distraught, and the Rebbe geschickt a shliach. She took her jewelry, she went to the pawn shop, she sold it for jewelry, and she brought all the money home, what she got for her jewelry, and she sat down herself at a table and she polished the money. She polished the silver. So sein lichtige Geld. And she told her husband, I have money. For zum Rebbe, I have money. So this Reb Gershon went off to the Rebbe, to Alter Rebbe, and he brought his bag of coins. Came into the Alter Rebbe, he placed the bag of coins on the table, and the Alter Rebbe opened the bag, and the Alter Rebbe said, "This is lichtige matbeis." Lichtige matbeis, Alter Rebbe said. Alter Rebbe said that by all of the, nobody can get the lights on in here? I'm talking about a Sfart and Lechem, we can't have lights, okay.
You don't need the lights. Keep speaking, it'll happen. Right. You keep...
Lichtige matbeis.
It's lichtig. Okay, say there. Okay, all right. You remind me of another story, but then we get back to it. Anyway, so the Alter Rebbe said by the Nidvis HaMishkan, so nothing was mavrik, not the kesef, not the zov. The only thing that was mavrik was the kier, mirrors. Alter Rebbe said, das ist lichtig, it's a lichtige tzedakah. Lichtige tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe said, the mazals are by dir shining. The Alter Rebbe said, was herzach bei dir? So he said, it's bitter. It's bitter. I didn't have any money. He told the Alter Rebbe the story. The Alter Rebbe said to him, soll's nesechein sein bei allemen, soll's nesechein sein bei allemen, soll's haben mariches yomim, und haben Kinder, und haben Parnassa. And he went on to Vitebsk, and he had tremendous atzlacha. He went into a new business. He became a diamond dealer. He became a tremendous Iyar. He had kama banim ubanis, and he lived in those days to 110 years old. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes in the Sichos, he knew somebody who knew this Gershon. And his last name became Gershon Neisachem. Gershon Neisachem. Azay the Maisa. And the Maisa is brought b'chad machta in this story of his Fartam Lechem. The says Tazay. What she did a Maisa Mesiras Nefesh. She gave away her money, gave away her jewelry. This is very close to her Isha. She gave her jewelry. But how she did it? Das Simcha. Huh? I'm going to even talk to you. Give it a second. The Simcha. She went and shined it. That's Mishana. That's his lichtige. That's his lichtig. That means a person made himself brilliant. And now I'm going to tell you the end of the story. This Gershon and Chana Rivka could never imagine the end of the story. The end of the story is, some of you know, Rav Reb Mendel Kaplan grew up in Toronto. Everybody remembers Rabbi Glukowski, teacher in Yitzchayim.
Talmidim here.
So he's a Rebbe, so a Meidadika person, full of life, full of energy. So his Bechar, his oldest son, is a Rav in Rehovot today. Chashav Rav, Reb Mendel, Chashav Rav in Eretz Yisrael. Reb Mendel was sent as a shlichus, as a Bachar, and the Rebbe said that the Bachar can't come home. They were on shlichus there. There's one group is learning in Yerushalayim, one group is learning in Tzfas. They stay over there, find shidduchim there, they're not coming home. So whatever, okay? His father wasn't by his l'chaim. So they made a shidduch. Then there was a group of, a bunch of Chassidim came of Russia at that time. It's in the mid-70s. Mitzchadet shidduch, whatever. Arush is a maidel, a Toronto boy, Varna shidduch. So the Rebbe Glukowski is she's a girl who grew up in Russia. Her maiden name is Vishalovin. Anyway, if you remember, in the late 80s, the Russians, all of a sudden there was a huge perestroika, and all of a sudden there was the Russians coming to Eretz Yisrael. It was a whole tumult then, Shamir, the Arabs were going crazy. Droves of Russians came to Eretz Yisrael. So Reb Mendel would have by his table, his wife spoke Russian, she grew up in Moscow. She would have by his table that every Friday night he would have huge groups of Russian Yidden, Soviet Yidden who never saw nothing, no bris milah, no Shabbat, garnished. I mean, like talking like these Yidden were favogel to Yidden for 3 generations. So if you remember, Rabbi Glukowski Senior, he was a mensch with Asach Militzes. One of his Militzes was Bereshis Shmois. Erstens was dein Name. Bereshis Shmois. Bereshis Shmois. That's what he used to say. Bereshis Shmois. So the Mendel has from his father this Russian. A Melitza. Like a poetry.
Melitza means wit.
Wit.
Right.
So you always tell the bin, start the meal after every washes, you eat the kazayas. No, Bereshis Shmois. Let's go around and get your names. So one Friday night, each one saying their name, very Soviet sounding names, very Russian names. And there's one guy is sitting there with his wife and they have a small child. And he says, don't do me a favor. He says, don't ask my name. I got a funny name. I don't know how I got this name. It's not like anybody else's name. He said, what's your name? What's your name? So I'm telling you, it's a weird name. What's your name? So he says, my name is Neissechain. I don't know what it means. I don't know how I got this name. He says, your name is Neissechain? He says, where was your family from? It's White Russia. He says, maybe your family comes from Vitebsk? He says, yeah, we're in that area of Weiss. There's no other name like this. That these 2 Yidden were Eniklach, this guy and his wife, this guy was an Enikl of Reb Gershon and Chana Rivka Neissechain, for the family of the Alter Rebbe. So Reb Mendel said, do you know where your name comes from? And he told him the story. And they were so moved that they became Bali Tshuva. And today they have a mishpacha with Eniklach already. Alts from a Yidden.
They still use the name? They still use that name?
I'm sure they do. All from the Mesiras Nefesh of Chana Rivka, who sold the jewelry, that sie gemacht und Svartem Lachem, von dem ist geworden, Deide später, Yidden sind hingekommen, and the light continues to shine. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
You know the small little things that I took out of your drosha?
What do you think?
No, I didn't ask. That's a big question. It's at the end of the Seder.
Still call them
I want to thank everybody for staying for
I should call you Reb Mendel, Havle, the fella, Neide.
Amen. I want to thank everybody who came on to Zoom. You want to unmute and say hello?
I should call you Reb Akiva for broadcasting it so well, and Shkoyach Reb Mendel.
What's that?
Shkoyach for doing such a great broadcast.
Oh, thank you.
Shkoyach to Elliot, Shkoyach to Reb Mendel for a beautiful art. The word was Neissechain. The word was Neissechain.
He might die.
I know. One of the biggest ones.
Right, and the reason why is...
And a big crowd here tonight. I want to thank everybody. I see Michael that you're on. Someone else, thank you very much. Again, today's shir was sponsored by the Balter family, Ilu Nishmas.
Right, no.
From Tuvia ben Reb Yosef, and Hashem should have Aliyas, should have Nachas from all his descendants. They should all be shining.
Yashik Chacham. What's your name?
Okay, we're going to tune out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
A story that gave me a tremendous service about